We'll see a lot of, big historical places on these shows, and while there's a lot of activity there, there's a lot of local places that have a lot of activity. And I would say, during an investigation, there was a place in Massachusetts, a private residence that had a lot of activity, and it was quite dark. After reviewing the evidence, another place comes to mind. It's the Blue Paddle Bistro in South Hero, Vermont. We had some stuff occur, but it was the reviewing our evidence that we captured that night that really blew our mind.
Yeah, the owners contacted us because activities had been going on for years, but they, in their mind, had nobody that they knew of that they could contact. So they finally saw our website and contacted us and asked us for help. As a matter of fact, we're going to go do a repeat investigation. It was so active.
Wow. Well, let me ask you a question. What has been the scariest moment since you began investigating? I mean, personally speaking here, what's the scariest? I'll ask you first and I'll ask Nick
Okay.
Scariest, I mean, I don't know if it was scary. To me, none of it is really scary. But we usually investigate as a team, 2 people minimum. And I was bored and it was at the end of the night and I was going to either fall asleep or do something. So I went over to 40th and Allen. We were doing an investigation there on the St. Mike's property at the old chapel on 40th and Allen in Colchester there. And there's a theater, abandoned theater right next to it, supposedly, according to the word in the area, that it's haunted. And we were investigating that. But I went over there by myself and sat there at the end of the stage, and there was a big pile of chairs, the plastic metal chairs that are in schools.
Sure.
It was huge. It was a big, huge pile. And I'm sitting there doing an EVP session, just talking and stuff, and all of a sudden it sounded like somebody scattered those chairs. I mean, literally scattered those chairs. And it was right after I had said, if you're here with me, please give me a sign. And it's like, oh, thank you, I'm out of here.
Well, did the chairs move?
Well, I don't know. I just heard it.
How about you, Nicholas?
It's not necessarily the scariest, it's the most startling. I like being in places by myself. Like, one of my dreams is as weird as this sounds, is to go to an old hospital or to an old psychiatric hospital and go into the morgue area and be pushed in a slab and doing a session there. I don't know. It's just something that just is like a thrill for me. Anyway, but this most startling was actually at the beginning of an investigation. We do an interview with the clients to tell them exactly what we do, ask them questions about the property, about them. And I was explaining at a private residence in Burlington our process, and like we'll show you here later what some of the equipment does. I was standing in a hallway that leads toward the bedrooms, and there was a living room out here. The couple was standing in that living room looking at me in the hallway. There's a closet door to my left, and I was going over the equipment, what it does, and I said, but if you get a reading out here, the closet, as soon as I did that, the closet door to my left, the doorknob turned and opened so much so that it hit me. And I was like, I didn't expect it, obviously, because the lights were all on. It's not normally when something happens. Normally it's dark and scary, But the wife just started bawling hysterically and left crying, and the husband mouth just dropped, and I was like, that had to be like the way I stepped, or it was just off the latch. So I tested it, shut the door, latched it, moving around. It wasn't the way I stepped because nothing was happening. So I put it just off the latch, and I just used like a little bit of force just with my fingertips to see, okay, if I just did that, if it just fell off the latch, is it one of the doors that would, where it would come out when it opens, or would it go back in? It just came off the latch and stayed there. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna kind of just like pull it. Pulled it, didn't reach me. It actually went back, towards the door to reach it. So I was like, this thing came out and continued and actually hit me. And so there was nothing I could do to say, well, basically debunk it, saying it was something natural. So that's gotta be the kind of the most startling, I would say, because I didn't expect it, and it was right in front of me and the homeowners, and it was when we were just interviewing them.
But you didn't see anything, or?
No, there was later on that night, obviously, and well, not later on that night, but during the investigation, we got quite a bit of things that occurred there. A door opened actually again during the investigation. We actually have it on film.
The front door.
The front door.
I had my daughter filming, and my son was in there. We were doing the first segment of the investigation, and we were sitting in the front room, and it totally unlatched and opened by itself.
Yeah, we have it on film too. So,
how long does a normal investigation take, and how long before the process is all done before you let the client know exactly what you found or what you've done?
Depending upon the size, if it's a small apartment or a small house, it can take about 4 hours. Depending upon activity, if the place is really active, we would end up staying longer. But we like to do all night. Bigger houses, bigger businesses, bigger complexes like Fort Mifflin that we've done, and other places like that, we like to go the entire night. Now, just as my dad said earlier, each of these pieces of equipment are rolling for that entire time. So one piece of equipment is running for 8 to 10 hours. We got to come back and review that one piece of equipment and watch every single second of the 8 to 10 hours. You do that times 10, and then afterwards we edit out all the footage and all the evidence. We make it into a DVD that we then give the client, present it to the client. It could take, I'd say minimum, one investigation at a regular sized business takes about 176 hours, so about 3 weeks.
And that's, of course, because of our scheduling, too. But generally speaking, we have three main investigators, my son, me, and our tech manager, Brian Colmer.
Colmer, yep.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to pronounce it right. And we're constantly, in our free time, watching and listening to evidence. And it's like we said, Nick said too, is this has 10 hours on it, and we usually have about 10 to 12 of these, maybe 14 digital voice recorders.
Now, when you said you make a disc for your clients. Now, this disc, does it actually show some semblance of something moving or going, and does it also? Can you hear the sounds?
Oh yeah, we have our laptop set up or a monitor set up and external speakers. I have a set of headphones that they could use, but what it is a DVD showing all the major points of potential evidence that we have. So if we get a voice on one of these digital voice recorders here, what we capture here, I'll cut out that little segment, put it on a disc for them along with others, and when we get to that point, they could hear that piece of evidence that was captured, or we could show them a video picture of something that we have captured. And you'll see some of them. We have some clips and stuff for a little bit later.
You said you've done 11, right?
By ourselves.
By yourselves. Out of that 11, has there been any one of them that's real distinctive that you can really see something there?
Oh, yeah, and it's a recent one. I mean, besides the old historical places, like I definitely would say Fort Mifflin, those are like minor ones. Rockwood Mansion in Delaware was quite active.
You say active. Slow down here a minute, Nick, and trying to bring us up to speed. When you say active.
Active means a lot of paranormal activity going on.
A lot of unexplained paranormal activity. I'd say that if you have to summarize it having a top 10 list, I would just say that the one that would top the list so far would be the Blue Paddle Bistro in South Hero, Vermont. We got a good amount of a wide range of things that occurred between videotaping a shadow person moving, videotaping a mist forming in the basement and moving, which we have some clips of, and also getting logical, intelligent responses to questions that were asked on the first floor, answered up on the second floor. So, and we actually do have those clips a little bit later that will show it actually encompassed a wide range. We heard footsteps, we heard voices when we were asking questions. We would literally hear it, and we would hear people talking. it actually it was a lot more active than I anticipated.
Yeah, yeah, and as far as that goes, I mean, the intensity of the place and what's going on for the people who own it. I would say there was a family down in Massachusetts, Northampton.
Yeah, Northampton.
Northampton, Mass, that called us up because their 17-year-old son had been scratched while in his bed. And a lot of evil stuff and dark, angry stuff was going on, and they were at their wits' end. And they actually talked to, I think, the TAPS people, or somebody recommended us. And they called us, and they sent us some snapshots of what was going on. And we actually documented a demonic entity or presence of that. And we had to recruit the help of John Sappis. It's a well-known demonologist whose uncle is Ed Warren, who is well known from the Amityville Horror movie. And John Sappis, actually, for those who know about this movie, The Haunting in Connecticut, he is actually the person who that movie was developed from, the true life story that went in and cleared the house there. So we called him in, and he brought a minister and a psychic that he works with, and we did a cleansing of the house. And so far, they've had no negative energy or no physical attacks since then.
It's been a year.
Helping that family was big for us.
Yeah.
Now you two are saying that there's 3 of you actively with your group right now. There's 3 of you. Is your group open to new members joining you, or what's the status here? What if I just say, after really hearing you today, I'm gung ho and I want to get into this, could I come join you? Or
You can join us as a guest investigator anytime you want, Pops.
We get the question a lot. Even though we have a Facebook page, as most people do, along with a web page, and we get the question so often that, and a lot of people don't know that I get a lot of emails asking to join the group, and every time, even though I say right now we're closed to new membership, but we'll let you know in the future, I still get the emails wondering if people are can join. What it is since we're new, we had a larger group, and as time went on, the people there that were a part of our group, decided, personal lives, they couldn't commit to, what we were doing and the amount of investigations we were doing, so they decided that it was no longer right for them. As it kept on going down, we do have another investigator named Ryan, who his personal life and work life sometimes conflict when we can do investigations. So he is still an active member of our team. It's just that the 3 core are myself, my dad, and our tech manager Brian. We do right now, we're very happy with the size of it, the size of our group. As time goes on, we're branching out to a lot of different states. A lot of different places are calling us. We may very well have to get more people, but that still would be down the road. I mean, we do take guest investigators. It's just a matter of the location and the time.
So I guess I couldn't become a full-time member right now.
Well, you could if you wanted to. You are the father, grandfather type image,
Well, we got all this. I don't know what these things are that's on my table here.
Okay.
I wonder if somebody would take the time and explain to the audience out here what you have and what does each one of these things do.
Well, I'll start from my side.
Okay.
This is the typical EMF meter. It's a Gauss meter. It basically measures electromagnetic energy. Whether or not it's leaking, it's generally used in construction, homeowners and stuff like that to check on the wire and the release of magnetic energy from that. We use that because it's said to be that the spirit world can utilize the magnetic energy in the space that we're investigating to manifest itself and to let their self be known. so to say.
By the energy or
By the
by the
energy.
water or the people in it, or even just loose wiring.
Like if we got a base reading of a room and that was .00, which means